a lack of strategic thinking.
Ambassador Bolton, thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Shifting gears, and dramatic and grisly new testimony in the James Whitey Bulger trial going on right now. The mobster's former partner back on the stand today for a fifth day to testify about the killings and other crimes Bulger is accused of committing. Stephen the Rifleman Fleming already dropped a bombshell yesterday, telling the jury that Bulger is not only a cold-blooded killer, he says he's also a pedophile. Dan Schorr, former prosecutor, Ashley Merchant, criminal defense attorney, and some real characters that we're all being introduced to in this trial. Dan, you first. I'm wondering about the testimony from the so-called rifleman, the pedophile comment. How damaging is that, do you think, to the defense?
In terms of the actual charges that Whitey Bulger's facing, it's not that damaging because the murder charges are going to be proved. There's overwhelming evidence. However, this case is unusual. It seems like the defense is more focused on stopping the prosecution from proving things that ruin his reputation, like that he's a rat, or that he kills women, or that he's a pedophile. And in that sense, it means a lot to the defense, and they're fighting against that. But in terms of whether he'll be convicted of murder, it probably won't make a difference.
Ashley, what do you think about that point that Dan's just made, the defense strategy here? Could this be sort of some kind of a preventative strategy, a protective strategy before this guy goes to prison?
Oh, definitely. I think they've had the conversation, and Bulger has told his attorneys, look, I'm going down. I know I'm going to prison, but I at least need to be protected when I'm in prison. I can't go to prison labeled a rat. I can't go to prison labeled a pedophile. I don't want to be known as a woman killer. I mean, those are the worst things that you can do. And so I think at this point, it's control so that he can live the rest of his life out in peace.
The worst thing that you could do, because you would face kind of retribution from fellow inmates once you're on the inside. So why not cop a plea then? Ashley, just to stay with you for a second, why is there even a trial if this is the defense strategy?
Because I'm sure whatever was offered to him would ultimately result in spending the rest of his life in prison. So he's got no reason to cop a plea in this case. I mean, this trial is probably fun to him. He's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. So he's not gaining anything by taking a plea. And you got to understand at this point, a lot of it's control. He's lost a lot of control by entering the criminal justice system. So what type of control can he gain back? He can force the prosecution to prove their case. He can force all these witnesses to come and testify against him. I mean, this is entertainment for him. And so at this point, that's really what this is about, not necessarily about winning or losing, but about control.
So Dan, from a former prosecutor's standpoint, shouldn't the prosecution have a little more control over this rather than let the defense, if this is in fact their strategy, this is what they're trying to do, and you both seem to agree to that, why would the state let this sort of charade go forward?
Well, whenever you have a high-profile organized crime case, the witnesses for the prosecution are going to be unsavory characters because they're the ones who witnessed these crimes. So when you have this witness Fleming testify, his background is fair game for the defense to cross-examine him on. In this case, he admits to murders with Whitey Bulger. He admits to having a sexual relationship with his teenage stepdaughter, and in his version of events, he actually disposed of his stepdaughter's body, pulling out her teeth so she couldn't be identified after Bulger killed her. There's no way the prosecution can prevent the defense from cross-examining him on that, and that's going to be an issue at trial.
And actually, then there is the possibility that we could learn later today the autopsy results of a guy named Stephen Rakes who turned up dead recently. He was on the list of possible witnesses to be called by the prosecution and was prepared to talk about how his liquor store was basically extorted by Whitey Bulger so that Bulger could use it as his sort of criminal headquarters there in South Boston. This guy turns up dead before he could ever take the stand. What do you make of it? Sort of a sideshow here, but what do you make of that whole thing?
I mean, it doesn't really pass the smell test. You kind of wonder, when you've got a mob trial going on and one of the key witnesses turns up dead, everybody is going to suspect something. And I wonder if this may be payback. Maybe somebody else is doing this on the outside and they're saying, hey, we're going to pin more on you, Bulger. Or maybe Bulger does not want this person to testify because there's something else that this person knew, and so he wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to testify. So it definitely throws another kink into this trial.
Ashley Merchant and Dan Schorr will continue to follow the goings-on in the courtroom in the Whitey Bulger case. Thank you both for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we have some amazing dash cam video of deputies risking their lives to save a man.